Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and for this episode I'm joined by Joey Alexander. Joey is 20, he's a phenomenal jazz pianist and actually an amazing composer in his own right. His 7th album, Continuance, is out now, and it covers a multitude of subgenres of jazz. What you're listening to now is Blue, one of the original tracks on this album. And this track features amazing trumpeter Theo Croker, of whom Joey says, I always wanted to work with a trumpet player and I wanted a quartet format for this album. Before the recording I knew of Theo, but I hadn't met him. I love his sound and stylistic range. He brings a lot. I hope you enjoy listening to this episode of Harmonious World featuring pianist and composer Joey Alexander. Welcome to Harmonious World, and I'm delighted to be joined by Joey Alexander, who is, I always think of you as about 12, but you're not, are you now? Are you 20, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
because you've been around for a while. I mean, you were this jazz prodigy pianist. You are so much more than that.
I think when I first came into the music scene, I didn't think about it too much, but as I progressed and as I got older, I thought that it's not relevant, at least to my standards. And of course, people see me as somebody who really play music at an early age, just like other musicians. I'm not the only one, but
No,
yeah, I happen to be one of them. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I do think about it, but yeah, I think I like to consider myself as, as a young musician.
yeah.
I'm a band leader, composer, and yeah, that's what I like to think for myself.
Yeah, good. Because actually your age is immaterial, just as, there are some of the old guys who are still going and their age is immaterial because they're still it's just about the music and it's about them expressing themselves the same way.
Right.
I find this album really interesting. So it's called Continuance, and it feels like that continuation of you from being a prodigy pianist, but now you're so much more than that. And these compositions have a real maturity about them.
Yes, it's definitely the continued cycle. That's why it's called continuance. Is that evolution as a composer, and so I've been composing music uh, since I even started playing music. Basically,
Yeah.
probably I was trying to make sure. Probably my Eclipse album. Like I did some few of my compositions, even my first or second album, but I didn't want to put out all my music because I was still trying to look for inspirations and how I can find my music.
Yeah.
And so it's it's always every album that I released is always a step up. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
better myself. There's definitely I've learned about myself every album I did, and I think this continuance is, to me, I take pride in this as a composer, and I'm really grateful for this music and the musicians who took part of it.
Well, yeah. And you have got the amazing Theo Croker playing trumpet, haven't you?
Yeah, I just finished a New York City gig with Theo, the Continuance album release in New York City. So I just finished a gig at the Birdland New York City is one of the most uh, renowned jazz clubs in the US or probably in the world.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
just, yeah, so it was a big deal for me to have my album released in New York City.
So was that last night?
I just got back last night, but I did 5 nights at New York City. Yeah, a lot of nights.
That's
But
amazing. That's incredible, isn't it?
yeah, I'm happy to be playing the continuous music, and yeah, I want to, keep this going.
So talk to me about the other two guys. You've got Chris Funn and John Davis with you. Chris on bass and John on drums. Are they still your band?
I played with Chris the longest. Yeah, I mean now I have a different drummer
Okay.
that I'm touring with, but at that time I was touring with those guys with John and Chris during that time period when we did the sessions. But yeah, I played with Chris the longest for sure. He's actually from Baltimore, Maryland, which is basically that's where my I laid my ideas based out of this Baltimore city. So
Okay.
this is where I got my inspiration behind Continuance as well.
Okay. Because you're not originally from the States, are you? You're originally from Bali.
Bali,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
So when did you move across?
So before I lived in New York City, about 8 years, then and I moved to Baltimore, and so that's how my creative process began. Because when I moved to a city, I always find inspirations, and definitely Baltimore is where I found my creative
Yeah.
inspiration. At least that's how I kind of laid my creativity and my ideas to this album.
Yeah. What I'm particularly fascinated by is your Bonnie Raitt cover.
Oh, I
It's a great cover. Has she heard it? Have you heard from her?
wow, that's a great question. I hope she hears it. I'm curious to think what she thinks about it. Definitely, yeah. I don't think she has heard it yet, but I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think, I mean, she's a songwriter. She's a great songwriter. And to have it's become that track is almost like it's become then a standard, a jazz standard, which for somebody like Bonnie Raitt is kind of unheard of, but it's
Yeah, interesting you say jazz stuff because most pop songs, we've been playing music, from the Beatles. That's considered, jazz-ish,
yeah.
because so many jazz musicians play, Beatles music. But from what I find, speaking of Bonnie Raitt, I don't think there are too many instrumentalists, at least, performing Bonnie Raitt. So it was interesting once I recorded it, and I can say I'm kind of the first one performing
Yeah,
it or recording it,
yeah, definitely.
pretty much.
I think we were all surprised by the Joshua Redman version of Streets of Philadelphia.
It's a new album, right?
Yeah.
I didn't.
And
Oh, so it's a cover. I
it's a
see.
cover, yeah. And that's really interesting because I think it just shows that, some more modern songs. I think you're right about the Beatles. There's quite a lot of Beatles tracks that have been adapted for, performed by jazz musicians, but to have newer type and from different styles, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Because before I didn't know about Bonnie Late, but I listened to this. Actually, the first version was George Michael singing it. I just saw this clip on YouTube,
Right.
and he sang this tune, and this is my introduction to it. And then I started listening to the original take, which is Your Body Late, and that's how I found, about Bonnie Late.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's a great track. I Can't Make You Love Me. It's great as a vocal, but it also works as a jazz track. It's great. Instrumental.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Now, the other one that I think is interesting is the gospel track, Great is Thy Faithfulness.
Basically I've recorded gospel songs before, but definitely Great is Thy Faithfulness has always been a favorite of mine, and I've been wanting to record, Great is Thy Faithfulness for a while. And I thought it was the proper time to do so. Especially we've been performing together a lot, so definitely I want to put in that one gospel song that really speaks to people, and pretty much all of us, maybe in a different time, different generation, grew up listening to this song.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, I myself, grew up listening to church music, and I've been to one. And so definitely it's a personal for me to play, one gospel tune. So it's always been a favorite of mine to do a gospel song.
Yeah. No, and it works really, really well. So you've now released the album. What's next?
I'm gonna enjoy it. The album just came out, and hopefully I get to perform more of the Continuance music, and that's all I can hope for.
Yeah. Good. And then wait for the inspiration for the next songs, I guess.
Yes, as artists, we always look forward to the next one. But to me, I'm at this stage where I like to, take things and take my time to really enjoy what I have and the music that I have released. And so I always enjoy every album and every musical relationships that I have with musicians.
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you. So thank you. And especially coming right off the back of those dates in New York City.
Yes. Thank you, Haley. Thanks for having me on the show. Until next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joey. Bye.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Joey, and I'm really grateful for him joining me after 5 nights in New York City. So what you're listening to now is that version of Great is Thy Faithfulness, which is just a beautiful version. But thank you for joining me once more for Harmonious World, and I hope you have a very good week. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.